Welcome to Unit 1, Lecture 5, Population Ecology Part 2. This is the last lecture that will be on the material for your test and for this unit. So, hey, look at that. Okay, so we're going to finish up, and for the most part, we're going to talk about human population in this lecture. So, human population growth. Human population, if you look at this graph, human population has been growing and growing and growing and growing. However, it's beginning to slow down as countries make something called the demographic transition. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on the next slide, but I wanted to look at this graph a little bit that we have here. So here's a graph starting from about 1500, okay, all the way up to the estimated 2050. So based on when this was taken, so this is copyrighted 2012, all right, so this stuff right here is all estimated. Okay, based on current situations. We're going to talk about how population demographers do that. Okay, so this red line is population size. Okay, and these blue bars here are population increases over the course of time. So you notice pretty slow going. Okay, until I would say you hit about 1875. Then things really started to take off. Why in this time frame right here? Whoa, do we start actually seeing the increase in population? Why does the population start going up? Well, we get better technology. The Industrial Revolution is happening. We're starting to actually see changes in medicine, changes in sanitation. People are taking their trash out. There's indoor plumbing in some places, so you're not, you're not sitting around dealing with your toilet all the time because it's going away. We're starting to see a lot of these advances, and those advances are making it in different places around the world. So as that happens, less people are passing away from different conditions. More babies are surviving, because a lot of times, very often people quote that around at a certain time period that the average human lifespan was 30 some odd years. Well, that's just because there were so many, the infant death rate was so large due to complications during childbirth, medical issues, and also babies have a lot of health problems because their immune system hasn't quite matured yet. So a lot of children didn't survive past the age of 5. And so when you factor in all of those, that child mortality rate, okay, that brings down the average age. However, if you survived past 4 or 5 years old, there's a good chance that you would live into your 50s and 60s. Okay, but that's, people quote that like at a certain time that the, average lifespan was 30 years. No, that's not how that worked. But once we got, so once we started seeing these medical technologies, like I said, we had medicine, we had technology. Remember, anything that you touch that, it's technology, technically. All right, medicine, technology, sanitation, so trash removal, all of that stuff. That started to impact our lifespan. And so as a population, we began to grow. So you can see that exponential growth starting. So I said we would talk about the demographic transition. So demographers have divided categories of populations into stages. So here's a graph of it, starting stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So looking at this graph, the red line here is total population. Okay, this blue line here is your death rate, and then this purple line here is your birth rate. Okay, so we have a comparison of our birth rate and our death rate to our total population numbers. Okay, so stage 1 is right here, stage 1. So we've got high birth, high death. Okay, so there's very little population growth. It's basically a one-to-one. Population stays about the same size, okay, and it stays relatively low. All right. Then we get to stage 2. So in stage 2, all right, stage 2, we have a higher birth rate and a falling death rate. Okay, it hasn't gone to an all-time low yet, but it is starting to taper off. And so what happens is our population is starting to grow. All right, because we're having a number of births and a lower number of deaths, and so we're getting more people. All right, stage 3, people are realizing, hey, we're not dying as fast. We don't necessarily need to have as many children. So at the beginning of stage 3, you end up having you still have a high number of births, but they're starting to go down, but our death rate is continuing to go down. So then there's still population growth, residual growth. Okay, it's kind of one of those, it's got momentum. So the population is growing. All right, but it's not necessarily growing as fast, or in a lot of times it's not growing as steeply, depending on the country. Okay, then this line right here generally is called the demographic transition. So going from stage 3 to stage 4, because in stage 4 you have a low, so it's basically the opposite of stage 1. So you have a low death rate, low birth rate. Everybody's finally caught up and said, hey, all right, we don't need to have 20 kids. We're good. Okay, the ones that we are having are surviving, and we're not dying off as fast, so we're good. Okay, and then that's when the population kind of stops growing and starts to even out. And most what are called developed nations, the US, Japan, Western Europe, those kinds of places, a lot of them are in stage 4, or even in this new proposed stage 5. Okay, so there's a lot, so population really isn't growing. Okay, and then like I said, stage 5 is a proposed stage. Demographers are starting to look at it because it's happening here in the US. For the most part, birth rate is actually so low that it's not compensating for the death rate. And so there's a chance population actually be in decline because the births are not outnumbering the deaths or even equaling the deaths. So we're not getting the same number of people into the society as that are leaving the society. And so they've proposed this stage 5. And like I said, there's evidence to suggest that the U.S. Population, except for immigration, is actually declining, and in some other Western European countries, because people aren't having as many children. If you are in you as a person in a pair would have 2 kids, and that would replace you and your partner in the population gene pool. Some people are not having 2 kids. Some people are not having any kids. Some people are having 1 kid. So those births are not necessarily compensating for the deaths that are actually being experienced by the population. Then we have these things called age structure diagrams. So people need resources. And so age structure diagrams help demographers actually understand what the population needs in terms of socioeconomic considerations, money, healthcare, schools, hospitals, retirement homes, that kind of stuff, or in this case of natural resources, food, water, space, all right, all of those things, energy, that kind of stuff. And so here are 3 age structure diagrams. So 1985, 2010, 2035. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to pause the video, okay, and look in the 2010 and the 2035. You won't be in the 1985, okay? You won't be in the 1985, but find your birth year in the 2010 and the 2035. What does the population look like for your birth year at that time, okay? Like I said, pause the video. So based on 2010, what's happening, okay? And based on 2035, what are you as a working individual, for the most part, going to need to support? Okay, because that's the big thing, especially when it comes to socio and economic things. The working population, which for the most part, okay, is the pink. All right, the pink is the working population, the green is the school age population, and the blue is the retirement population. Give or take, like I said, there are obviously always some variation there and some overlap and bleeding into different generation, so to speak. But what demographers a lot of time are looking at is they're looking at this pink population because they're the ones that are, for the most part, responsible for the economy. They're responsible for buying, selling, working, okay? And so what are they doing in relationship to the other two groups of the populations? Are they having kids? Are they not having kids? Okay, and so on and so forth. And so one side of this is the female side. So down here's this is what the female portion of the population would be like. Okay, and that's what the male portion of the population is going to be like. And so then this pink band of individuals, what are they going to be doing? And what are they going to be supporting? And who's going to be supporting what or where? Okay, and so that's what age structure diagrams tell us, and we're gonna look a little bit more about those in class. All right, but they help us understand what our needs are. All right, wrap up. Okay, you are going to go to this link, and it is clickable on the Blackboard post. So you're going to go to this link. What is the current US population according to this, and what is the current world population? Okay, what are the top 3 most populous countries? So you should see a link down there. On the age structure diagram, find you. All right, you're going to hover over the bars. Okay, what percentage of the human population, or I should say the US population, are males of your age? So the blue side, the left side, and the females of your age. Okay, so the right side on the red side. Doesn't matter which one you actually are, all right, but we're trying to look at the US population. And then what percentage does your age make up of that US population? So add them together. All right, and then which age has the highest percentage currently? So looking at the age structure diagram right now, who's got the highest percentage? So you can look at the sides, okay? Whoever's got the longest bars. You don't necessarily have to hover over every single one, but which age has the highest one? And then I want you to look at the world and pick a country, any country. I don't care. Pick a country that you're interested in and check their age structure diagram out, and how does that compare to the US? Okay. All right, so you're going to post that on Blackboard, and I will see you in class.